Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Sanderlanche podcast. My name is Joe, and with me is
Data?
And Dak. No Jaymee this week. Unforeseen circumstances. She'll be back next week.
Yes, everybody now can turn off the podcast because you're not getting Jaymee, and you don't want to listen to three dudes talk about this book. Sorry. Anyway, we're talking about the Alloy of Law, chapters 4 and 5 this week, wherein Wax goes to a party with his bride-to-be, and her cousin and her dad show up and kind of cramp their style. Not really. And so then they all sit down and have a lovely conversation, and where Wax talks about shooting the dog in the tail when he was trying to shoot him in the balls, and then his wife-to-be gets really uncomfortable and leaves, and then Wayne's also there, disguised as a waiter. Who'da thunk? And then some bandits show up and try to kidnap both his bride-to-be and her cousin. And Wax has finally had enough after the death of a constable. And so that's where we actually ended, which kind of sucked. But anyway, hold on to something, everyone. The Sanderlanche is about to begin.
The streets spin shimmers and the walls they curl. The grip of greed, it rains. There's just one track to lead this moving train. The price of progress is a dying world. The price of trust is pain after the wrath, the bitter shame. Look up into the night. Pillars of risen, they fall in their light. Forward we run, splinter the steel, weaken the wheel. Through life and loss, rivers of sorrow trying. The heavy cost of holding their hands untied. Through life and loss.
So yeah, we got a couple interesting, really talky for the most part chapters, but we got to know a lot more about Marasi at the very least. I know you guys were kind of suspicious of her last time, so did that change at all? What did you guys think of these two chapters that we read?
Yeah, these chapters were good overall. The party, it was very almost reminiscent of Ben attending a ball. It's like he kind of feels like completely out of place here, and he kind of has to act and stuff like that. So that was kind of interesting. But yeah, when we got into the actual them sitting at the table together, and finally to see that her dad's like not really that stuffy or stiff, it's just because his daughter is that way. That was kind of a relief almost, because it's like at least not everybody in the family is like this. It's really just his daughter, and he just kind of has to go along with her or whatever she's doing. So yeah, that was fun. The Marasi stuff, like I don't know. It seems like we got a good explanation here, but I'm still unsure. I feel like she may still be hiding something, but maybe not. But that's just the sense that I get. Wayne showing up as a waiter, pretty funny. And yeah, I didn't really think about it before now, but them mentioning that they have ferrochemical powers, so obviously terrorist people are in their bloodline. Like I just didn't think about that at all. So, but that 100% makes sense. So. And then the whole explanation of like all of these people are tied to the bloodline of Spook, very interesting. Gotta be something more to that. So all these people are Lestiborn descendants, I guess. So
Does that make you hate them?
No, I don't hate them. They're not speaking in undecipherable communication, and they're not making people feel uncomfortable by telling them they know why they're sad and stuff. So that I don't hate them. That's fine. They didn't have anything to do with that guy. And then yeah, the bandits showing up was really cool. The Koloss half-breed thing is weird and also still confusing to me. I don't understand why the Koloss weren't changed, but whatever. And so that was gross and weird at the same time. And then yeah, them finally getting up, Wax finally deciding he's going to fight back. I'm excited to see what happens next.
It's funny. I was going to say, it's like, well, you don't hate them for being descended from Spook, but apparently Steris is one of the people they grab, so I guess she's descended from Spook, and we're not loving Steris so far. So
well, she's just one lady, and Spook can't be held accountable for that.
Yes, it's really for like unrelated reasons. Like she doesn't have a spookish personality, so
right.
Okay.
At least not yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
we don't know her that well.
Yeah. No. Like these chapters were good. you know, I agree with most of what Joe said. Really, it's like the ball is just like oh yeah, very reminiscent of Vin and Ellen attending these to the point. Not quite to the point where I'm just like, we've seen all this before, but it wasn't far off, I guess. I don't know. The conversation at the table was fun enough that we were able to just sort of bypass it. 100% agree. The fact that Lord Harms is not as stuffy as his daughter was a massive relief, and it made me like both characters more because they weren't just like that stereotypical family of prudes. I was like, no, she's just weird, and her dad is just a bloke. So that was cool. Yeah, I don't know about Marasi either. I still feel like she's got something up her sleeve. I don't know. This could just be me reaching, but I feel like, she gets kidnapped like when she's hanging out with Wax, and she's already trying to find out more about Wax. So this again could be a way to sort of draw him in. But yeah, I don't know. And the Kolos Half-Blood is like, I don't want to think about the mechanics of that. Like who? Like,
yeah.
What? When the Kolos genderless?
So
No,
okay.
they weren't genderless. I don't think.
I don't know that it ever mentioned Kolos genders, although they were like. I think
it did.
I think if I remember right, he said he never saw any females, or at least not obviously, like when Sazed was first encountering them, and they all just wear a loincloth.
Right. Because they bolt the skin over 5 dead people or something.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say there is a bit in the annotations that addresses this, because he says, I've mentioned before in interviews that Sazed transformed the Kolos during his ascension. Part of what he did was restoring their sentience to more human levels, and he changed the way they interact with hemalurgy, and that's all I'm going to say for now.
That's dumb. That's like him being like, yeah, I wanted to have like Kolos half-breeds, so I just left them the way they were. It's like Sazed as a person of harmony would totally have like made them human again. But whatever.
Or at least just ended like the whole concept of Kolos.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. Like, why would you take that away from them? Or why would you leave them in that state when they wanted to be human?
Yeah, whether he either turns them back to human or he just like, does the harsh thing and just culls them all. It's like I can't see him leaving them as is. Like their existence is pain, for God's sake.
Mm.
Yeah, no, that's okay. That's weird. Yeah.
Okay. So it's definitely, there's some. I like your continued suspicions. It's like, she's that Marasi. There's still something there.
She's up to something. Damn it.
I mean, she's getting kidnapped, so if she was supposed to be like maneuvering Wax somewhere, it's like, well, that's not going to help unless she's not actually working with these guys. I guess that could be.
Well, I don't know. Maybe she's just like really like banking on the hope that if I to his eyes that a shy, defenseless young woman gets kidnapped, maybe it'll draw him out of his funk and make him do what he's about to do.
Right.
Like she could just be playing him like really hardcore, but I don't know. We'll see, I'm sure. Like there's not much of this book.
I mean, they did also grab Steris, so if you're trying to go and make Wax do something, grabbing his fiancée is probably the way to start.
Yeah, but it seems like they're really playing up the fact that he gets along with Marasi way more than he does with Steris.
Yeah, but there was no way for anyone to know that before. Like they exchanged like 2 words the first time they met.
But
and to that point,
that could be the con.
Yeah, but to that point, I will say that like, he does say nice things about Steris in this chapter, so I feel like that's kind of maybe Brandon's way of saying like he actually does care for Steris. Like it's not just a marriage of convenience for him. He does care for her. He thinks she's a good woman.
Oh yeah, and I don't think she's a bad woman.
We haven't seen anything. Doesn't mean to say she's bad. She's just
like
odd.
In fact, like I said, like now there's a bit more personality to her dad. It's like I kind of appreciate her just being odd a bit more because it is just it's her personality quirk, and so now I'm just enjoying her just pulling out the tape measure and just going, your fingers are wrapped around my arm too tightly. Unclench them by 3/4 of an inch.
Well, and we find out that apparently her mom was very similar. So.
Yeah, what that tells me is like she liked to have dalliances as well.
It
sounds like
Steris born from a coachman.
Oh gosh, no way. That means she wouldn't actually be in the spook line, maybe.
Ooh.
Yeah, but I guess people would have to be aware of that to.
I guess.
Okay. So the people wouldn't be aware of that, so they would still try to grab her. Yeah.
Exactly, because they think she's in Spook's line, but she's actually not.
Okay, I guess let's get into these chapters, peoples. Let's do this thing. We get another, like last time we were questioning, is like, does preservation have wings? And then we start out this chapter with another, he's like, Harmony's forearms. All right.
So, do they think he's an angel?
I mean, Harmony's forearms make sense because it's like the hero of ages would bear it on his forearms or whatever, on his arms. Like that actually makes sense to me.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
like that makes perfect sense. But yeah, if he's got wings and forearms, it's like, okay, he's an angel, all right.
Well,
Or
Harmony
possibly
has
a-
forearms,
Well,
and
it's-
Preservation had wings, apparently. So who knows? if
Right.
Harmony also.
Yeah,
that's-
exactly.
Yeah, that's right. I was getting my gods mixed up.
Also, it's confusing to me that like they even know the name preservation, unless like in the histories of Harmony, it talks about how preservation and ruin were two things, and Harmony became like it made them one.
Well, yeah, I mentioned last time that it's like all of the epigraphs that we read in book 3, they turn out to be like a book at the end that he has left for them.
Oh, I guess that's true. Yeah, and
so-
they reference that book several
Yeah.
times, so I guess
And-
that is like the Church of Harmony. That's probably their like official script.
Right. And there's definitely a lot of talk about ruin and preservation in that in the epigraphs of that book, because that's where we got a lot of information about what was
Yeah.
even going on with them.
Yeah, exactly.
The way you described it made me think like, do people see ruin and preservation as like a couple who broke up and then Harmony was their son? Harmony, the son of gods.
Now I'm thinking of like they broke up and they had an agreement to share custody of Harmony, and he had to spend half the time at his dad's house, and his dad was a jerk.
Yeah.
I don't want to go see Ruin this weekend, Mom. I guess they were both guys.
say
So it's
that.
like, Dad,
Yeah.
I don't want to go to other dad's house this weekend. That guy's a jerk.
He's like, don't say that. Your other dad loves you, just in his own way.
In his own way, he wants to kill me.
All right, now I know. Now I want to see the preservation ruin soap opera sharing custody of a kid
What have I done?
as a Lifetime movie.
But yes, so they've showed up at this wedding, and it is enormous. And he's just like, this is a modest wedding dinner? There's more people here than live in entire towns in the Roughs. And there's paragraphs about how nicely everyone's dressed, all their jewels, and the necklines, and so on and so forth. Like, he's like, either necklines have gotten a lot lower than when I was a kid, or I just didn't notice as a kid how low the necklines were. And Steris says that, yeah, this is a special wedding between two very well-connected houses. Wouldn't want to leave anyone out, except for the people who are left out on purpose. And then there's an interesting discussion about, like, what it says by who you invite and who you don't invite to these weddings. The Yeomans are a powerful house, even if they do believe in sliverism.
Oh God, are they still on that Lord Ruler kick?
Right?
Sliverism? Wait, is this the one where he says old Iron Eyes?
Yeah,
That's the
imagine revering Iron Eyes himself.
So that to me sounds more like what you call it?
Marsh?
Like Marsh, yeah, but maybe not.
Well,
Well, but
because
I
that
mean-
was his nickname, wasn't it?
Yeah, his nickname was Iron Eyes, yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, you could revere the Inquisitors if you were worshiping the Lord Ruler, because they were an important part of the religion.
Well, it wouldn't
Yeah,
be the
but
first time.
saying old Iron Eyes himself makes it sound like that is the god.
Well, I mean, there is that, but then you think about, I think it was the start of Well of Ascension when Sazed was out in that village, and everyone's like, oh, the Lord Ruler's back, Lord Ruler's back, and Marsh is
Yeah.
just standing outside town going, yo. So
Yeah.
it could be the fact that people conflate, like people think of the Lord Ruler as an Inquisitor, so
Maybe. I don't
Well,
know.
yeah.
The thing that really tells you what sliverism is probably about is that the Lord Ruler was known as the Sliver of Infinity.
Yeah.
So it really seems like that must be related to him in some way.
Yeah, I think it's like they've conflated Marsh with the Lord Ruler, and so they think they're one and the same. And I don't know how they've pulled the name Iron Eyes. Maybe Marsh has told someone, because I will ride this train until I die, that he's still around somewhere. So
Well,
maybe he
I
lives in the
mean,
Yeoman's basement.
if you don't know what kind of metal is sticking out of an Inquisitor's eyes, you might just say they're Iron Eyes, and then somebody who knew Marsh at one time might have been like, "Oh yeah, we used to call him Iron Eyes."
I knew a dude like that. Ironically, he wound up with spikes in his eyes. Ah, that's funny. We should just adopt that for our religion.
Or maybe they worship the Lord Ruler, and just like Marsh is also in the thing somewhere. It's like, yeah, death. Because remember, he's apparently death in this, or Iron Eyes is death, is what we learned in a previous one. And Dak is insistent that it is Marsh. But anyway, so maybe
Marsh Reaper.
Yeah, they like the Grim Reaper's like an important part of their religion or something. But anyway, so it's like, so yeah, no one's going to ignore an invitation to this party. So the people who are slighted by not being invited will not only are they not coming, but they won't be able to have their own party because everyone they might want to invite is going to be here.
Yeah, your party is bad and you should feel bad.
And Wax is like, in my experience, that sort of thing leads to a high probability of people getting shot. And she's like, this isn't the Roughs. We don't do that sort of thing here.
Sure you don't.
Like even in this, like it says everything she's done is calculated. She's waving with calculated fondness. Earlier it said like her dress was calculated to be in fashion but not daring and everything. It's like, my God, this woman just sounds. How is she not exhausted?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
I mean, good on her for sticking to it, but man, I don't have that kind of mental fortitude.
No way. Not me. I couldn't do it.
I even skipped over the part where she gave him a lecture on exactly how to hold her arm or her hand to communicate just the message that they want to communicate.
But like,
and he's like, it did work. It was interesting.
Yeah, I'm just fascinated because like it's not done out of malice or anything. It is just how she thinks. I'm like, all right, you do you, lady.
Yeah.
And then she points out, it's like, hey, you see that guy, the stocky man with the longer hair, whose name is Lord Schurman.
Yeah, I don't know how to say that.
Apparently, he's an infamously dreadful party guest, a complete bore when not drunk, and a complete buffoon when he is drunk, which is most of the time. Least likable person in all of upper society. Most people here would rather spend an hour amputating one of their toes than spend a few moments chatting with him. And he's been invited so that the people who are not invited will feel even worse that they'd rather invite this guy than invite them.
This is great.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It's like, how would you feel if you were invited? And they invite the worst guy in town, the town idiot, and they're like, yeah, you're definitely not coming.
And Wax makes another comment about, you did that out in the roughs. And she's like, yeah, okay, just so you know, I'm ignoring your whole ignorant frontiersman act at this point. You're just trying to get a reaction, and I'm not going to give you one.
Way to rain on his parade.
They have to meet and greet and talk to people. It notes that's like he's been working hard these last few months, and he's even met some people that he doesn't mind so much. He's like, I'm kind of fond of some of these people, but I'm not super comfortable with what's going on with Steris right now. Like, because they're making their first appearance together, but everybody knows that he's looking for a wife, and it has to be a rich wife because his house is going under. So everyone kind of knows what's going on here, and it's weird to him to have to pretend that it's like, yeah, I met this lady and we're in this romantic thing when everyone knows what's actually happening.
Everyone's just calling him a gold digger.
And so the bride and groom show up, and finally the attention's all going to them. And fortunately, Steris does not try to drag them over right away. Although he does wonder why they're speaking with a scruffy man who looks like a beggar dressed all in black. Like, he makes note of what the room looks like. There's two balconies either end, and starts thinking about how hard it would be to fight in here if he got into a gun battle suddenly. But he also thinks that he's glad that they had to sell the Ladrian Ballroom a few years back, because otherwise people expect him to have giant parties like this.
Hey, man, I get it. I hate being a host. It's the worst.
Yeah, imagine cleaning up this place after.
Yeah, exactly. I take that back. I actually like hosting people, but I get kind of, I can't, like, I don't enjoy myself when I do that. Like, I'm enjoying serving everyone and making sure they're having a good time, but I don't actually have, like, I don't know how to describe it. It's a weird feeling. It's like, I like that they're having a good time, but I'm not actually having a good time.
Mm-hmm. It's the responsibility.
Yeah, that's probably it.
If you're in charge of making sure everyone else has a good time, then you're too hung up on.
Yeah, I'm too tied up to be like, oh, you guys feel good? Does food taste good? Do you guys need anything? Is the air too hot? Is it too cold? Are you guys bored? Do you want to do something else? Like, what's going on? It's all that.
But we find out that Marasi is here again, and he's like, what is her deal, Steris? And Steris says that she's from the outer states and wanted to attend the university, so her father took pity on her, and because her own parents don't have enough money, so she's staying with them while she's studying at the university. And Wax says, or thinks, a valid explanation, but did it roll off Steris' mouth a little too quickly? Was it too practiced? So maybe that's part of the source of you guys being like, there's still something weird about this chick.
I mean, it definitely contributed.
Yeah.
They sit down at the table, and Steris and her dad start talking about what's going on, and Wax is not really paying attention. He's looking around. This is where he's thinking about, man, there's a hard room to defend. You need snipers up on the balconies, but you got to have on both balconies in case somebody can't get underneath the ones over there. And then finally he's like, okay, I'm going to get into a conversation. Marasi, so you're going to the university, huh? And she says, I'm in my final year, and that's it. He's like, okay. So how are your studies? And she just says, well.
It's a sparkling conversation we're having.
Right?
Good talk.
And that's when the waiter shows up to tell them about the soup. A faint terrace accent, but the voice makes Wax freeze. Today's soup is a delightful prawn bisque with a hint of pepper.
Which sounds fantastic, man.
Yeah. I don't like bisque a whole lot though. So
I do. Lobster bisque, prawn bisque. It's really the only way I'll eat lobster because I'm not a big lobster guy.
Really?
Yeah, the only seafood I really will eat is I'll eat salmon, I'll eat catfish, I'll eat shrimp if they're fried. That's pretty much it.
Okay. Well, fair enough. Each their own. I love seafood. I can't get enough of it.
I wish I'd liked it more. Like we went to Ireland one time, and we went to this really small town that was famous for their oysters, and the restaurant catches the oysters that day or the day before and then serves them.
Oh,
And I tried to
heaven.
hit them, and I couldn't do it. It would not go down my throat. I was like, oh, I can't do this, and I just
I
felt
don't like
really
oysters
bad.
either.
Yeah, oysters do seem to be an acquired taste. But
Even deep fried, I'm not a big fan of oysters, and deep frying usually will make about anything decent.
deep fried oysters, you say?
Yeah, I've seen that a few places, and I tried it once or twice, and I was like, eh.
Interesting.
Dak, I don't know if you know this about Texas, but if we could deep fry something, we will.
Oh, I'm well aware of that.
Good times.
Yeah.
Now we're talking about seafood. I want some calamari or something.
That does sound good.
I could really go for some seafood chowder. Man, every time we go to New Zealand, we get the best seafood chowder.
That's good
amazing.
chowder.
Yep. Chowder.
And so, but Wax figures out that is Wayne, though he's wearing a false nose and a wig, and he groans, and Wayne's like, "Oh, does my lord not like prawns?" And Lord Harms is like, "Oh no, the bisque is good. I've had it at one of their parties before." And Wax is like, "No, I've just remembered something I forgot to do," and then thinks it involves strangling someone. So the next bit I find interesting is that it does mention it's like of course Wayne was part Terrace, as was Wax, because they have these abilities, but apparently that's rare. Nearly a fifth of the originators had been Terrace, which makes sense because we know the entire Terrace nation was everyone that was left was at the pits of Hathsin, right? So it wasn't hard for them to probably get underground and survive. So there were a lot of Terrace left, but apparently they don't marry outside of the group very often. So that's interesting. And Marasi's like, does that server look familiar to anyone else? And Lord Harms is like, I must have served us last time. And she's like, but I wasn't with you last time. And Wax has to jump in and be like, so, Lord Harms, let me change the subject.
I wonder if the Terrace don't marry, at least at first, weren't marrying a lot outside because they were afraid of another Lord Ruler.
Yeah, maybe.
Except for
That
that
would
one.
certainly be something I was concerned about.
Except for that one who shacked up with Jaymee.
Right.
That's true, yeah. And but Marasi kind of perks up and asks when Lord Harms, or Steris actually, I guess, mentions, no, it's Harms, he mentions the roughs. He's like, robbers should confine that behavior to the roughs. Which, yeah, okay, thanks.
Cool.
And Marasi's like, so Lord Ladrian, what was it like living out there where there was no law? Which earns her a glare from Lord Harms, so we're not supposed to talk about Bruno.
He's just like, there was law. I am the law.
I'm the law. Yeah. And Wax's explanation is kind of interesting because he's like, yeah, it was, when I first got out there, it was weird. Everyone just assumed that, if they were strong or had power, then they could take what they want, and it would actually surprise people when someone stood up to them.
Huh, that sounds like a certain country that's invaded another country.
Oh, goodness. And she's like, oh, you were so brave. And he's like, not really. I just kind of fell into stuff. And she goes, even stopping the surefires? And he goes, oh, well, that was a special case. Like, wait, how do you know about that? She says, reports trickle in. Most of them get written up by somebody. You can find them at the university or the right bookshop. So he's like, oh. He's a little bit uncomfortable now. Like, people are reading about some stuff I did? I don't know how I feel about that. And as he drinks something from his cup of wine, he feels something in his mouth. And he's like, damn it, Wayne. And he has to, he almost spits out the entire mouthful, but he has to, make up a reason to, cover his hand with his mouth and cough to get out this thing that's he's almost swallowed. And Steris like, I'm sure the constables will take out these criminals. And Marissa's like, I don't know. And Lord Harms tries to get her to stop. And Wax is like, come on, just for conversation, let her talk. And so she starts rattling off these kind of statistics or numbers, really. It's like, so how many people lived out in the roughs where you were a lawkeeper? And he's like, well, the city started growing in the last few years, but for most of the time, about 1,500 in the city and maybe another 1,500 in the surrounding area. And she's like, okay, so how many of you were out there maintaining the law or whatever? And he's like, 5 or 6. So she's like, okay, let's say 6 per 3,000, 1 lawman per 500 people. That gives us a good, easy division there. The population of our Octant is 600,000. So by the same ratio, we should have 1,200 constables, but we don't. We have more like 600. So your savage wildlands actually had double the number of lawmen per person as we have here in the city. And he's just like, that's some really oddly specific information for this young woman to have. And they're talking about different crimes, different crime rates. And she's like, yeah, there's, crimes here are smaller. Instead of a bank getting robbed, you get several people being robbed walking home at night. But also, this is where all the wealth, or most of the wealth in the world, is concentrated right here in Ellendale. So people who want to steal wealth go where there's wealth. And finally, Lord Harms is like, you see, this is why I tried to stop her. She's just going to get going. And Wax is like, no, this is the most interesting thing anyone's said since I've come back to Ellendale.
Yeah, it's the most interesting thing I've heard, including the time my wife to be told me that I could have sex with other women.
This is much more interesting than that. When Wayne brings the soup and everyone kind of turns and pays attention to that, he pulls out what was in his mouth, which was a shell casing with a piece of wax on the end. And he pops it open and finds a piece of paper that just says, you were right. And he goes, I usually am. He mumbles to himself. Or to Wayne, I guess, as Wayne is putting his soup down.
I feel like he could have easily, as the waiter, just been like, you were right.
Right? That's a really long way to go to get 3 words to him.
Also, all right, you're trying to be clever and slip the note in the drink. Your face would have been real red if Wax had choked on that.
Yep. Somebody has to Heimlich him and it just flies out his mouth. So would Wax's. That's good. So he whispers to him, like, what are you up to, Wayne? And Wayne's like, 170, thank you. I've been lifting weights and eating steak.
That's a good joke.
And this is where we start getting into the inappropriate conversation, because Steris is like, oh, so Lord Ladrian, I suggest we begin compiling a list of conversational topics we can employ in the company of others. They should not touch on politics or religion, but should be memorable and give us the opportunity to appear charming. Do you know any particularly witty sayings or stories that can be our starting point? So, wow, okay. And he's like, well, I once shot the tail off a dog by mistake. That's kind of a funny story. She's like, that is not appropriate dinner conversation. He goes, I know, especially since I was aiming for the balls. And Steris is upset, but her father seems amused. And he's like, what, you said I couldn't shock you any longer? I'm merely testing your hypothesis, my dear. And then Lord Harms makes a comment that's also inappropriate about hitting a guy in the face with a brick, so he can make a joke also. And Steris is outraged by this as well. And his response is like, what? It's a perfectly legitimate simile. That's great. That would be my response. It's like, what?
Yeah. That was like when I was in high school and I wanted to write an essay on testicular cancer, and my teacher thought I was just being an asshole who wanted to write testicle a bunch in a paper. She wasn't wrong. But
yeah, I was about to say,
she
was right. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, she wasn't wrong, but at the same time, I mean, I did write the paper.
That's a cancer that people have.
Yeah, it's a thing. It's a real thing.
He's like, can I write a paper on ball cancer? And so Steris is like, no more talking of hitting people with bricks or shootings, regardless of the target. And Marisol is like, okay, Lord Ladrian, I heard that you once threw a man's own knife at him and hit him right in the eye. Is that a true story? He's like, actually, it was Wayne's knife, and the eye was also an accident. I was aiming for the balls that time, too. And Steris goes, Lord Ladrian. She says she's nearly livid. And he's like, I know. That's really off target, but I'm bad with throwing knives.
They're all just gagging up on her.
They really are. And you kind of feel bad for her, except at the same time it's Steris, and so you kind of don't feel that bad for her.
Yeah.
It's like, don't be so uptight. How about?
Yeah.
This conversation violates Article 57, Section 3.8 of our marriage contract.
Right? It's like, I really hope you read that whole thing. So she's like, fine, I'm going to go to the washroom while you three compose yourselves. And
She
Lord
really needs
Arms.
to get like find a husband who's more like, who's the smiling obligator?
Oh,
Carl?
No,
No,
not
Carl was
Oh.
the Inquisitor.
Good
Yeah.
man, good guy.
No, not Goodman Menace.
Shit, it's gonna
Crap.
bother me now.
Yeah, hold on, because I was gonna. That was like, it was like a T-shirt idea and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Norden.
Norden.
Yeah, good guy.
Smiling obligator.
And we would say good guy Norden.
Oh, you're right, good guy Norman. When you said good, I thought you were going for Goodman, so
No.
I jumped in there. Sorry.
It's all right. I forgive you.
But Lord Harms is like, kind of gets onto Marasi, and Wax is like, no, that was my fault. I started it. I shouldn't have let it get out of hand. And Harms is like, yeah, well, I've been tempted to such lengths myself a time or two. She's much as her mother was. And gives Wax a pitying look, and Wax is like, oh, I see.
It's like, oh, I see. Oh.
And Lord Harms is like, this is our lot, son. To be the lord of a house requires certain sacrifices. Oh man, that's what he thinks about his wife, who I don't know if she's dead or what. She's not here, and he says that much as her mother was. So I assume she's dead.
Yeah,
Maybe she
I think
divorced
so.
him because he had 2 dalliances instead of 3.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
or she ran off with the coachman.
Yeah, maybe. But it's like, so that he's like, it's just interesting to think about his assuming dearly departed wife. Like, yep, that was a sacrifice I had to make. And he's like, I'm gonna go get a drink with my buddy before Steris comes back and bullies me into not doing that. So I'll be back.
Really selling it here, buddy.
Yeah.
Oh man.
He's like, you already bought the cow. I don't care.
Yeah, it's like, she's your problem now. Ha ha ha. And then
cow was not an indictment on women. Sorry, that was probably inappropriate for me to say.
it's just it's a thing that is said, you know.
Yeah, but it's not. It doesn't make it right.
You're right. And I like Marasi. The first thing she wants to know is like, did you really shoot off a dog's tail when you were aiming for his balls? And he's like, yeah. In my defense, the dog was attacking me, and the aggressiveness was not the dog's fault. It looked like it hadn't been fed in forever, but I was just trying to shoot it someplace non-lethal. And the thing with the knife in the eye, I was not aiming any place. I was just hoping to hit him. That seems reasonable.
I feel like knowing what we do about his abilities, he should be very good with throwing knives.
Maybe. I mean, I guess any piece of metal, you would think he should. Maybe he just practices with guns and he doesn't care for like other things. And so they kind of have a little talk about like his statistics bother her a little bit. Like, I always thought that I was going someplace that needed me, and based on what you're saying, maybe this place needed me more. And she's like, well, I mean, before you got there, there wasn't anybody out in that area like upholding the law, so you really made a big difference. The city was better protected by the end, but it didn't start out that way. And his thoughts, it reveals some interesting stuff, in my opinion. So the city is the land of plenty that Harmony created to shelter mankind. Fruit trees grow in abundance, cultivated land has water without needing irrigation, and the ground is always fertile and somehow never gets farmed out. So I don't know what Sayes did when setting up this planet, apparently, but he really made this place nice for these people. Which was especially good probably when they were starting out, and no one had anything. So
I wonder why do they call it the Roughs then? What's rough about them?
no, the outside is the Roughs. The inside, the Ellendale Basin, I think it's called. That's the nice place.
So he didn't make the whole planet that way. He just made that part. But why wouldn't you make the whole planet that way? That doesn't make any sense.
Maybe you can't.
I mean, I guess.
He created this whole section of lushness and wonder, and he's just like, oh, I'm tired. I'll get to the rest tomorrow.
Well, no, I was just thinking,
the rest of this could be desert. I don't care.
There must be some sort of like to make ground that doesn't get farmed out of its like minerals and stuff. There must, unless you're magically adding more minerals, there must be some sort of like process that people aren't seeing that like kind of swaps that out. And so, if the whole planet was like that, you can't swap everything out because it would rotate, and there's nowhere you could rotate to basically. If everywhere was super nice.
So basically, the Ellendale Basin's like the Fertile Crescent of the ancient world.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Let's create somewhere for the armadillos to live.
The armadillo.
Wayne comes back and he's like, "Oh dear, did you grow so tired of waiting that you devours your companions?" And Wax sees Marasi grin and realizes that she's also figured out who this is. And he's like, Miss Wax is like, if I may note something, my lady, you're far less unassuming than you were at our first meeting. And she goes, yeah, I'm not real good at being shy, am I? And he's like, I didn't know that was something that required practice. And then Wayne sits down at the table and takes out some bread and starts eating it. And he's like, I try all the time, but nobody gives me credit for it. It's because I'm misunderstood, I tell you. And Marisa's like, am I supposed to look aghast at what he's doing? And Wax is like, no, he saw that you recognized him, so now he's going to sulk. Then he starts eating Steris' soup, which I'm like, that's kind of messed up, but okay. Steris does not seem like the kind of person to me who would take that well.
She pulls out her little measuring tape and it's like, the surface of this soup is 0.2 centimeters below where it should be. Who's been eating
Who touched my soup? Yeah, that reminds me of when we were teenagers and my brother was like, you were in my room. This thing was moved an inch.
Sure, that might happen.
I was like, I didn't go in there, man. But he was right most of the time.
Yeah, obviously. And so they start pointing out all the ways in which Marasi has been trying a little too hard to act, shy and unassuming. So clearly, it is an act. And they're like, so why? And she's like, I'd rather not say. He said, you'd rather not? Or Lord Harms and his daughter would rather not? And she's like, yeah, it's that one. But, I mean, please, can we just leave the topic alone? And Wayne's like, look at that. You pushed her almost to tears. And she's like, what? I'm not. And Wax is like, just ignore him. Trust me. He's like a rash. The more you scratch, the more irritating it gets. And Wayne puts up a speed bubble real quick to change clothes so that he's not a waiter eating at their table for some reason. But then he's like in his like roughs clothes with his duster and his hat. And so I don't know how that's better at this party. Then again, there was like a beggar talking to the bride and groom when they came in. So maybe it's not that useful. And Marasi's like, a speed bubble? I thought I'd be able to see something from the outside. And Wax is like, if you knew what to look for, then and we're watching close, then you could see it. And he points out that Wayne's hat is made so it can like fold up. But where do you get the duster from? And Wayne's like, I hid it under your table. And Wax thinks, I really should have looked under the table before we sat down. Would that be too paranoid? I don't feel like I'm paranoid. I don't lay awake at night worrying I'm going to get shot. I just like to be careful. And Marasi is looking bemused at Wayne, and Wax is like, what you expected from the reports? And she goes, no, the accounts usually omitted matters of personality. And Wayne's like, wait, there's stories about us? And she goes, yes, many. And he goes, damn, do we get royalties for that or something? If we do, I want Wax's share, seeing as I did all the stuff they say he did. Plus, he's already rich and all. And she's like, these are news-style reports. They don't pay royalties. To which Wayne responds, filthy cheats. I wonder if any of the other fine ladies in this establishment have heard of my outrageously heroic and masculine exploits.
Yeah. Oh, Wayne.
And then he tries to hit on Marasi, and Wax finds like, Wayne, enough. And Wayne's like, okay, right. And Marasi's like, I wonder if I should be like writing down a description of you two for my professors and how unique it was to meet you. And Wax asks what she's studying, and she blushes. And Wayne's like, see, that's how you act shy. You're getting much better. Bravo. And she's hesitant and is kind of embarrassed. And it's just, all right, I'm studying criminal justice or legal justice and criminal behavioristics.
Is that a word?
I don't know. I've wondered that myself. I haven't actually looked.
I mean, it's just Brandon's fakey way of saying she's studying criminal justice.
Behavioristics is a word. A physicalist science of individual and social behavior. All right.
Well, there you go. They didn't want to make it an Ocho.
And both Wax and Wayne are confused, like, why are you ashamed of this? And she goes, well, I mean, I've been told it's not very feminine. Besides, I'm sitting here with, like, two of the most famous law keepers in the whole world, and which, hey, that is probably also news. They didn't even know people were reporting what they did. They're like, wait, we're famous, the most famous law keepers in the world? This is okay. And Wax is like, trust me, we don't know as much as you think. And Wayne says, now, if you were studying buffoonery and idiotic behavior, that is something we're experts on.
Yeah, we know all about that, girl.
And Wax says, that's two things. And Wayne says, I don't care. And Wax like, okay, so what are you here? Why are you here unless this is just your normal run-of-the-mill tormenting? And he's like, I told you. You didn't accidentally eat my note, did you? And Wax says, no, but it didn't say much. It's like, it said enough. No, it didn't. It really didn't. And so he says, you told me to look at the hostages. And I found something. They're all relatives. And he says, it's only been 300 years since the originators, Wayne. We're all relatives.
Can you imagine that? It's just like, yeah, dude, like, you're my, like, sixth cousin. We're all related.
And Wayne has a weird thing. He's like, I did some researching. Why do they call it research if you only do it one time? And Wax says, probably because you had to do it twice.
That's a Mitch Hedberg joke if I've ever heard one.
Right. It's very Mitch Hedberg. But all of the women can trace their lineage back to the Lord Mistborn himself. Who, if
and
you
not
guys...
gonna lie, this took me a minute. And I'm like, wait, what? Who? Vin? Wait, no. Oh. That was how my head played out.
Yeah, that Lord Mistborn.
I don't know if you guys saw the coins that I posted on Instagram, the ones that are from this era.
I liked them, but I didn't actually look at them.
But one of them features the Lord Mistborn looking out over like the lush Elendel basin fields.
Oh, is that what that was?
And the other one has Vin on it, but
a lush garden, a collection of Russian nesting dolls.
But so he's like, they all have a strong heritage of Valomancy, being related so closely to the Lord Mistborn, and they're all fairly closely related to each other, third or fourth cousins, sometimes first cousins. And while they're discussing this, Marasi's smiling, and he's like, what? I knew it. I knew you were in town to investigate the Banishers. You showed up only a month after the first robbery happened. You're going to catch them, aren't you? He's like, is that why you asked Lord Harms to bring you to these meetings? He's like, maybe. He's like, did you think that I faked the deaths in my family that made me House Lord? Like,
yeah, you're not thinking this through, lady.
And she's like, no, but I mean, I was surprised that you would accept the title until I realized you probably saw it as a chance to investigate. I mean, you have to admit, these are unusual robberies.
Maybe she's like, maybe you didn't fake it. Maybe you murdered your uncle so you could come back and... Oh, wait a minute.
Well, and his sister, because his sister died in the same accident. So, yeah, that's pretty hard.
Oh, yeah. I keep forgetting about the sister.
He's like, they're unusual robberies. And he's like, well, yeah, Wayne's unusual too, but I'm not going to change my whole life and accept responsibility for a whole house just to study him.
Yeah, I mean, he really came back because he manslaughtered his wife and couldn't deal with it.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone knows about that. Does even Wayne know what happens? Like, all he knows is that Leslie is dead. Does he know that?
Yeah, I don't know.
No, I think he knows because at the very end of near the end of the chapter, he's like, "I'm sorry about Leslie," like, or "It's not your fault." He says something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't know that Wax told him everything, but it's definitely possible.
Right.
I mean, you would even say it wasn't your fault if you just thought like Wax failed to save her. So
that's true.
He may not know exactly how much it is a little bit his fault. But Wayne's like, tell me you brought a gun. And he's like, no, I didn't bring a gun. Why do you care? And he's like, well, don't you see? They're robbing places where they can kidnap these wealthy upper class Elendel types. And those type of people have stopped traveling on the railways because of these robberies. And Wax is like, yeah, I mean, I guess that's why they attacked the theater. And he's like, yeah, so what other place has all these wealthy people gathering together where they can also wear their finest jewelry so that you can rob them as a distraction? And Wax is like, oh shit, a wedding. And
look, I gotta say, like, if this is the point that Wayne was building to the whole time, he was incredibly blasé about the fact, like, yeah, they're probably gonna like hold us up at some point tonight.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna not get to that point.
I think he relies too much on Wax for stuff, and I think this is like kind of an indication of that. He's like, well, I can't take these guys on by myself. I need you. So I'm going to kind of worm my way in here and be like, yo, we got to do something. Because if he said something too early, then they would all just be like, okay, we need to evacuate the wedding. We need to go. Everybody needs to get out of here. And so I don't think Wayne wants that because he wants to catch these guys and he wants to fight them. It seems like so.
Okay.
That actually makes a lot of sense. I was gonna say, like, this is what you tell him in the message that you're secretly slipping him. Like, they're gonna hit the party. Like, Wax could take it from there. Why are you waiting so long? But yeah, you make a good point. So at the end of the chapter is the doors at both ends of the ballroom burst open, and that's shit's going down. And so they're coming in, rifles and pistols, and they don't. He's like, they're not dressed like I'm used to bandits dressing. They've got like bowler hats, and they're not wearing like duster coats and big rough style hats. They're wearing vests and bowlers and loose button shirts that rolled up to their elbows.
One of them screaming down with prohibition for some reason.
At least 24 bandits, perhaps 3, and more coming in through the kitchen. And Wayne's just like, fuck, hell of a time to leave your guns. And so he pulls out 2 hardwood dueling canes that he's hidden under the table. I like that dueling canes are still a thing. Like, that was a thing in the Final Empire times, and they've just persisted.
Sometimes you just can't get better than a big stick.
But Wax is like, no, stop. Like, he's counted 35 people now. And Wayne's like, what? He's like, we cannot start a fight in the middle of 300 or 400 innocent bystanders. We can't start a firefight in the middle of that many innocent people. Like, a lot of people would die, okay? And not all of them would be bandits. So far, none of these robberies have ever been violent. We're not going to make this one turn into a bloodbath because we can't hold back for 5 seconds. Which is very reasonable as far as I'm concerned. Wayne's like, I don't have to listen to you. You're not in charge of me anymore. Meanwhile, Marasi has pulled a tiny notebook out, a little spiral notepad, and is writing stuff down. And Wax is like, what are you doing? He's writing down descriptions. Did you know that statistically only 1 out of 2 witnesses can accurately describe a criminal who assaulted them? And she's just rattling off some statistics, like 7 out of 10 will pick the wrong man in the lineup if a similar, more threatening man is presented. And mentions she's got several other little factoids from her studies. And then she finally goes, oh, I'm babbling, aren't I? And Wayne's a little pissy. He's like, we don't need stuff like that, seeing as how if we witness a crime, the guys doing it are usually dead by the end. And the dude's like, everybody remain calm, sit down, be quiet. And this is the guy who's got a solid, though not tall build, big bulging forearms, and a mottled grayish complexion, along with a face as if his face were made of granite. Koloss blood, Waxillium thought. Dangerous.
That's
gross.
That's Big Hungry Bill.
Yeah. We call him Big Hungry Bill. Can you guess why? Because I'm always hungry.
There's one fun note in the annotations about this chapter, other than the one I read about the Koloss blood. But originally, when this was going to be like a short story, this was basically the end. There wasn't like all this Vanishers stuff. It just was a simple story that ended with a big like fight. And in the original story he was writing, Wayne was the main character, and Wayne was like a hat maker who rode into like a town out in the roughs on a talking horse. And it was like,
okay.
It says he was a screwball hat maker, and like the horse was grumbling about having to carry him around and blah blah blah.
Dude, you're a horse. What else do you do?
So it was he thought it was like a fun spin on the Western motif, where instead of being like this quiet, reserved Western cliche gunman, he was like this crazy hat maker. And but he realized before he got very far into the story that Wayne doesn't work as a main character very well. He needed someone like for him to play off of. And so that's when he started reworking the whole thing.
Couldn't just play off the talking horse. Had to be like a person.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So
also, is he crazy because of mercury poisoning? Or is he like...
yeah, maybe.
I don't know. That's been done, I feel like. Mad Hatter.
And also, like, why can't the horse be the main character? He's the,
yeah.
like, the horse be the straight man.
Yeah. Like, I really thought there'd be more horse in The Horse and His Boy. So, like, you know, when I read this, I thought there'd be a lot more horse.
The horse is just like, let me do the negotiating. And Wayne's just like, no, you're a goddamn horse.
He's like, yeah, and actually it turns out the horse can't actually talk. It's just because he's crazy.
Yeah, he's just crazy. Exactly.
Yeah, so the horse is just like, and he's like, he's like, no, I disagree.
Wilbur.
But anyway, so he's like, he wrote in here, it's like, so you may get this sense of like a climax here because this was originally like the big end.
What did the talking horse do in this shoot?
I don't think I'm gonna experience a climax from the book.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so but the robbers are also not wearing masks, which he's not used to until one of them shows up and he is wearing a mask. He's like, huh. And he also feels like there's something oddly familiar about that guy's voice. And the guy's like, okay, everybody, all we want is your jewelry. Nobody needs to get hurt. Your jewelry isn't worth your life. And Wayne's like, Wax, come on, dude. And Wax is like, no, we got to get out of this without anybody getting hurt. And then we can report to the constables. We can do this the right way. I'm not going to be the cause of these people dying. And then a guy starts yelling, how dare you? And a guy at a nearby table stands up. I will not stay quiet. I'm a constable of the 8th Guard. And the masked bandit leader comes up. He's like, Lord Peterus or Peterus, I don't know. Retired chief of the 8th Constabulary. We'll be needing you to give up your weapon. How dare you commit a robbery here at a wedding celebration? That's outrageous. You should be ashamed of yourself. What a weird. Like,
yeah.
Have you ever dealt with criminals before?
Yeah, it's very like Demolition Man cops where they're just like, we don't know how to deal with this. It's like, I ask you to stop in the name of decency. It's like, dude, we're criminals.
And the guy's like, ashamed to rob these after what you people have done to the roughs? This is payback. And Wax is like, shut up, Peterus, don't provoke them. And the guy's yelling, in the name of the law, I will see you hunted down and hanged for this. And the guy's like,
the law.
Be careful about warning people you're going to see them executed. That gives them less reason to hold back. Rust and ruin, you people sicken me. And Wax is sitting here whispering, it's like, the bandits really are interested in the money. See, they're making everybody talk at each table to find jewelry hidden in mouths. I'm glad to get all this advice about how to effectively rob people.
Yeah, open your
really
mouth.
That much of a
I
thing.
want to see if you get. Yeah, open your mouth. I want to. Well, no, I mean they're just hiding their earrings and crap in their mouths.
That's. God, I hope they don't prick their tongue.
Well, I mean, you know, if you got a super valuable piece of jewelry you don't want stolen, you're like, I'm gonna hide a ring in here to.
Yeah, no, I grant it, but it's like, oh no, need to hide this from the robbers. Oh god, I'm choking on my ring.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
well, if that happens, you just swallow it and you get the good old sifter out. You know, you'll get it back.
And Marasi's like, of course they're interested in the money. It's a robbery. He's like, no, but it's the hostages. I thought the robberies were just a cover, but they're really interested in what they're stealing. So he takes her, he gets her to hand her notebook, and says, Wayne, bat on the wall. And Wayne slides over his dueling canes, and Wax pulls from his sleeve like a metal rod and puts it up against the canes and the notebook and burns steel so he can push it up against the side of the table and kind of hide it under the tablecloth. I just like they have a code name for this exact scenario. It's like, I need to hide something on up against something. Bat on the wall. And when the guy gets to them, Wax is like, no, please don't hurt us, sir. And he does a very exaggerated, like, scared rich guy act where he pulls out his pocket watch and is so hasty that's like he gets ripped off of the thing and starts pulling out his pockets after throwing his pocketbook in to show he didn't have anything. He pats down his own coat pockets to be like, no, see, I don't have anything. And the guy's like, yeah, good, that'll do. Very
stop being poor.
Well, no, it's just Wax very cleverly prevents the guy, or shows the guy that there's no need to pat him down. You look, he's patting himself down. He's showing you that he doesn't have anything. So that, you know, if he happens to have a gun on it, then you don't find it.
Which comes into play later.
Yep. And he gets to Wayne. He's like, hey, what about you? And Wayne's like, do I look like I have anything of value, mate? I'm just here by mistake. Was begging in the kitchen when I heard you blokes come in. Whatever. And the guy wanders off swearing about them being too poor. Except before he leaves, he takes Wayne's hat and threw away his own hat, which had aluminum in it. So that might have been a bad idea, actually.
Well, no, he's
He's
still
got a
got
cap underneath. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's still got the aluminium on his head.
Yeah.
And as he leaves, Wayne's like, Wax, that guy took my lucky hat. And Marisol's like, why didn't you hide your pocketbook too? And Wax goes, some of the bills in it are marked, so the constables can track them when they get spent. And she's like, you marked? So you did know you were going to get robbed. He goes, what? No, I didn't. Of course not. And Wayne's like, yeah. Wax always carries some marked bills just in case.
That reminds me of there's a part in 40-Year-Old Virgin where he does like magic tricks for his girlfriend's daughters, and the older daughter's like, so that means you just carry like a fake ear and a giant coin with you wherever you go, and he's like, yeah, like half the time.
Why not? But Wayne notices one of the guys is doing a little something strange, and he's like, Wax, is that guy doing what I think he's doing? The guy is comparing faces to drawings that he's holding in his hand. So I guess they don't have photography necessarily. They have drawings. So he's walking around looking at every woman's face and comparing it to these pictures so they can find the right hostage. Then the bandit leader strolls by with another guy, and the other guy's like, I'm telling you, the boys are getting jumpy. You can't give them all this and never let them fire the bloody things. You got to let the boys loose sooner or later, boss. That's not good.
Nah.
And so Wax is trying very hard to resist doing something here. And then finally, a group comes out of the ladies' room. A bandit finally went to look back there, and there's Steris getting let out. And the boss calls out, all right, grab a hostage. Who should we take? I don't care. Any of them will do. And Wax is sitting here thinking, they're making a show of this. They want us to think they're picking someone at random. And then he indicates Steris. And they grab her. And then the boss is like, actually, I think we'll take two this time. And the Koloss blooded man comes back and grabs Marasi and is like, you're coming for a ride with us, pretty. But unfortunately, Wax already handed her notebook back, thinking that the bandits were done with them. So she drops it here. And the bandit's like, here now, what's this? It's like, all it's got on it is words, Tarson. And the Koloss blooded man, apparently Tarson, is like, idiot, you can't read, can you? And then he reads it, and he's like, here now, it's a description of me, isn't it? I just wanted to remember your face from my journal, you see. He's like, yeah, all right.
This is a level of intelligence I wasn't expecting out of the Koloss guy.
Right? He's one of the smarter bandits, really? All right.
Yeah, he's one of the ones who can read.
Yeah, he got crossed with the good guy Norden's line, so he's like really intelligent, but the really intelligent person was like, from his ancestor was like, just for the sake of science, what would a Koloss human hybrid be like? I gotta make that happen.
We need to go out and we need to get a Koloss really, really drunk. Let's not pursue that line of thought any further.
But now Wax is watching him get dragged away, and Wayne's like, Wax, come on, we gotta do something. And Wax is like, no, we can't. And Wayne says, Wax, look, mistakes happen. Leslie was not your fault. I'm going to do something. And Wax is like, no, it's not worth the cost of lives, Wayne. This isn't about me. And this is when Lord Patira stands back and he's like, how dare you, cowards? I will be your hostage if you require one. You're dogs, each and every one of you. I'll see you hang. Take me instead of one of those girls, or it will happen. I swear it by the survivor himself. And Wax is like, there goes the only man in this room with any courage, him and Wayne.
Especially because at this point they've already kicked the shit out of him, and he's still just going back for more. I'm just like, all right, you know what you're about, mate.
In the name of justice, you must stop this.
And he screams, coward, and that's when the masked bandit leader turns around and shoots him dead. And Wayne's like, oh, you just made a bad mistake, mate, a very bad mistake. And the bandit leader says, fine, you have some fun, boys. Burn it out of your blood quickly and meet me outside. And then time freezes. Wayne's put up a speed bubble and starts looking around the room, figuring out where each and every bandit is, and says, as soon as I drop the bubble, this place is going to erupt like an ammunition store in a volcano. Wax.
Odd phrase.
Well, and Wax says, that's a terrible metaphor. Well, how would an ammunition store get in a volcano? And he's like, I don't know.
Look, I make up the phrases. I don't know. I don't think about them logically.
But Wax pulls out a gun from under his jacket beneath his arm and puts it on the table. He's like, I tried waiting. I gave him a chance to leave. I tried not to have to do this. And Wayne's like, you gave it a good show, Wax. Too good a show. Wax dumps a whole pouch of steel into his wine cup and downs it. He's like, okay, let's do this. And Wayne's like, you owe me a pint for lying, by the way. Lying? You said you hadn't brought a gun. I didn't bring a gun. He says as he pulls out another one from the small of his back. I never go anywhere.
He's like,
just
two
one.
guns. Yeah, he's like, two guns, bitch. That's a
that's a
Arkham
dick
City reference.
Wax is Two-Face now?
I guess so. Or Wayne is.
Actually,
no, Wax, yeah.
You know what?
Yeah, it's fine.
Aaron Eckhart, he could be, maybe a bit younger, but he could be a
Nah,
good Wax.
I see Wax more of like a Colin Farrell type of bloke.
There's a lot of fan casts that go on about this. People are always talking about, because this is a very cinematic story, and people are just like always talking about who could play it. Henry Cavill actually is a popular pick.
Choice. He's already.
Yeah, I
mean,
can see
he's
it.
playing too many book characters as it is. I mean, come on.
He deserves a chance to, play someone properly. Because, like, there are some where he does really well in the role, but the role's not written right.
I think the Witcher one, he's supposed to be pretty loyal to the subject matter, isn't it?
Everybody thinks he's
I haven't
doing
watched
really
it.
good at Witcher. Well, the first season is. They
I
said
haven't
that the
watched it, so
second
I can't judge.
season. Yeah, they said the second season's kind of gone off the rails, and people didn't like it as much.
Huh.
At least the hardcore fan base doesn't.
But when people say that he should play Wayne, or Wax rather, I'm like, well, hold on, think about this. What if he played Wayne though? Like, what if you didn't like stick him in this kind of role that he's played, like this more serious character a lot? What if you let him be the funny guy? Like, I think he could do it. Like, let him have some range.
Yeah, sure.
I think he could definitely do it. I was picturing Charlie Cox as Wayne.
I can see that.
Yeah, or even Charlie Cox's Wax. I think he could do that too.
I can see that too, actually. Yeah.
That could also work, yeah.
Data, who do you want to play Wax?
I don't think that I have a good choice. I've seen a lot of other people's votes, and I've never been able to be like, this is the person that I see.
Yeah.
I have that person for Wayne in my head where I'm like, Henry Cavill could play Wayne, right? But
I kind of would want like an older person to play Wax, like maybe older than you'd think from the book, I think that might be a more interesting way to
he's
go.
got 10 years on Wayne, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's supposed to be quite a bit older. I don't know how much.
I think they said he was 10, but he's got like a decade on
yeah,
Wayne.
In the last chapters, it said that he was like Wayne looks like is like around 30 and Wax is like just over 40.
Yeah, so I think you make Wax even a little older, maybe like late 40s, early 50s. I think that might be a little more interesting.
Another one that I've seen for Wax several times is what's his name, Harvey Dent.
Oh yeah,
Aaron Eckhart.
that's what he said.
Oh yeah, no, you said that. I'm sorry, my brain was somewhere else.
I'm glad other people share the opinion.
Yeah.
I think Aaron Eckhart's a little too chiseled and handsome. I want him to look a little gruffer.
I think that makes sense. This person that I just Googled it, and this person says Aaron Driver for Wax. I don't see that actually.
Adam Driver, you mean?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Adam Driver. I don't know why.
Nah, yeah, that's not. He didn't give a Wax vibe to me. Listeners, write in. Who do you think should play Wax in the film?
I mean, if he was a bit younger, Clive Owen could have done it.
Yeah,
That guy's underrated.
he is good. Maybe Lee Pace.
Ooh, that's a
I
good
like
one.
Lee Pace. Yeah, I love Pushing Daisies though. Like I like this. I like this one. It says Keanu Reeves for Wax and Alan Tudyk for Wayne.
That would be good.
Oh, you have my
Olivia
attention.
Wilde as Steris. That's an interesting choice.
I don't see that.
I could see it.
I like it. I mean, this is going back in time, obviously, because he's deceased. But Heath Ledger for Wax and Alan Tudyk for Wayne. That'd be cool. It'd be like a Knight's Tale reborn.
Yeah.
That could be cool.
Well, then you'd have to get the third guy in there somewhere. I don't remember.
That guy. I feel like wasn't quite as
Bobby B.
Yeah, I don't think that guy hit quite as hard for me. Also, I mean, you could just have what's his face who played Vision instead, because he was Chaucer in the movie.
That's true. Yeah.
But yeah, no, the third guy was King Robert from Game of Thrones, and he was fantastic in that.
Yeah, he was good. He was also in something else that was good. But
Matt Mercer as Wax. Okay, interesting.
Matt Mercer.
Andy Serkis as Wayne. Okay, that's kind of funny.
Who's Matt Mercer again?
Okay, he does voiceover stuff a lot. Let me think what he's done.
Isn't he the Critical Role guy?
Yeah, he is Critical Role.
Oh, well then I think it'd have to be animated. I don't know that I could. I mean, the guy's good looking and he looks like he's fit, but I don't know that live action it would work.
I'm trying to find something he's done that's more live action, other than obviously Critical Role, because but I don't know.
Anyway, we've digressed quite a bit here.
Ooh, Mark Shepard for Wayne. I do like Mark Shepard.
Timothy Oliphant. He's a little old, but he's used to playing Western guys.
Robin Williams would have made a fantastic Wayne. I mean, yeah, he would have been a little old for it, but I agree. He could totally do that.
Robin Williams.
How's Robin Williams' Cockney accent?
I don't
Probably
know.
not. Probably not good at all. No, I wouldn't think.
Wait, hang on. What
you
accent
never
does he have?
know.
Is it Cockney, Yorkshire, Brummie.
Robin Williams went to like Juilliard, so he got schooled in theater.
Okay. For some reason, I was thinking that he specifically didn't have an English accent in Hook because he couldn't do one very well because he was supposed to be from there.
That's true. Yeah, he's supposed to be from England.
Okay. Anyway, so back to the thing. He asked Wayne how much Bendeloy he has, and he's like, not much. This stuff's damn expensive here in town. Got maybe enough for 5 minutes extra time. But my metal mines are pretty full. So that's good. And so
he's like, I won't die. You might, but I won't.
Wax says, I'll get the girls. You keep the bandits on the south side off me. 37 armed bad guys, Wayne. This is going to be tough. Stay focused. I'll clear some space as we start, and you can catch a ride if you want. And Wayne responds, perfect as preserves, which I just like that phrase. I don't know why.
That is actually quite brilliant. That's like Brandon as an American writer showing a good understanding of British slang where they just shorten a word, and like we do it too. Like I'm sure the listeners have heard it a million times. Like we'll shorten a word and just dock the end off and put an S on the end instead.
Oh, so you're saying that's like a shortening of like preservation?
Yeah, he's saying perfect as preservation, but
interesting.
Because he can't be asked saying every syllable. He's saying perfect as preserves.
I see. I thought he was talking about like jam preserves.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
I don't think it'd be capitalized if that were the case.
Oh, that's a good point. It is capitalized.
Oh, you're right. So maybe it's got the double meaning, preservation and jam, delicious jam.
Yeah, delicious jam. Yep.
Delicious jam.
So we end with him being like, you want to know why I really came to find you, Wax? I thought of you in a comfy bed, resting, relaxing, spending your life sipping tea and reading the papers while people bring you food and maids rub your toes and stuff. And I just couldn't leave you to a fate like that. I'm too good a friend to let a mate of mine die in such a terrible situation.
It's like comfortable?
No, boring. And then he shivered.
Boring.
Wax cocks his pistols. And I like this thought that he's like, when I was young, I sought out the roughs and ended up going where I've been needed. Maybe that's what happened again. And then he levels his gun and yells, go, and that's the end of the chapter.
Dun, dun, dun. Cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
listeners, we get to read it.
He butched and Sundanced us.
I get to read it immediately because we're going to record again tomorrow.
Yeah, what if that was the ending? That would be very butch and Sundance.
Yeah. It's like their car drives off a cliff.
Well, it's not. Okay, what's that movie now?
I don't know. The one with the women.
Yeah.
Thelma and Louise.
Thelma and Louise. Thank you. I had it until I needed to say it, and then it just jumped out of my brain.
All I could think of was Susan Sarandon. That's all. The only thing that came to my mind.
Okay, so predictions. So in the next section, they won't have to fight after all, and everyone will just be cool and talk it all out, right? So.
Wait, what? Is that your prediction?
No, I said that's going to be your prediction, right? There's not going to be a fight after all.
Nah.
I'm sorry, are you calling them predictions?
Yeah, I don't think that's. I call them predictions sometimes. It's fine.
Yeah,
we don't gotta stick to the shtick.
What do you guys think is going to happen?
I think that they're gonna have to fight. I think that the bandits are gonna get away with the girls though, and they're gonna have to chase after them, or come up with a plan to try to find them and figure out what's going on. I think they're gonna protect most everybody. Lord Harms, maybe he'll die in the firefight. I don't know. That'd be interesting. But something basically is gonna come of this where people realize like, oh, we need a guy like Wax. Like, we may have looked down at him because of his lifestyle before, but like he saved us today, and these are the kind of people that need to be around. So, or that we need to respect at least. So I think that's going to be what happens as far as how far we're going to get in the next part of the story. I'm not sure. Like, I don't know if there's going to be like a bandit chase maybe where they have to chase after them, because I think they are going to slip away with the girls. I think that's where this is heading. It's all going to have to, especially since this book is shorter, it's going to have to come to a head sooner. So I think maybe they're going to slip away with the girls and get away, and they're going to have to go save them. So yeah, I think that's mainly what I got.
Okay. So a chase might be interesting. Do you think that they're in these newfangled horseless carriages, or do they got a bunch of like horses outside?
Yeah. Well, I think it's going to be like that episode of Boba Fett where the Power Ranger cars, and it's going to be like a super low risk, low speed chase that's not interesting at all. No. I think yeah, they're going to have to like figure out like they're going to get away maybe before the chase can really begin. Like maybe they're going to chase after them and then all of a sudden they vanish. They're going to be like, what the heck? So then they're going to have to figure out kind of what is going on with these vanishers? Like, how are they actually doing this? How are they accomplishing this?
You said Power Ranger cars, and I the only thing I think of was I'm picturing Boba Fett now, but like with the Zords. So it's like Tyrannosaurus Rex and Pterodactyl and
Mastodon.
I was like, geez, that would have made that show different. Okay.
Triceratops. Yeah. It's like
they announced
to become Voltron.
They announced a new Power Rangers comic series where they're fighting Godzilla. So
that's cool. Kaiju. That's like their speed. You know what's so funny to me, and this is a little bit of a digression here, but like when I was probably in college, like I watched the original Power Rangers run where they brought it over and they redubbed it and filmed scenes or whatever. I watched the original Power Rangers run when I was a kid, and then when I was in college, they reran the same original Power Rangers show and said it was new, and I was like, that's not new, it's like ancient. It's like 30 years old.
Yeah, it actually got real popular, and then that's why they brought like the Tommy actor back for like a new series because they were rerunning the original, and people were like, oh hey, now I know these guys again.
Yep. So that's not surprising. Power Rangers kind of made a resurgence in the last like 6 or 7 years. So
go Power Rangers. Go watch the movie with Ivan Ooze.
Oh, what a movie that is. That's like one of the first movies I remember watching in theaters. And even as a kid, I was like, this is weird.
It's so weird. What do you think's going to happen, Dak?
Well, no Power Rangers, that's for damn sure. Yeah, no, I think this is going to turn into a chase scene. They're going to, and I think my gut for the usual stuff that happens in this sort of story is there'll be a chase scene. The bandits will get away, but some of them will get captured, or there'll be some clue left behind. The constables will be useless, and so like Wayne will talk Wax into like, all right, we got to go hunt them down. That's where it's going to start. But from there, I don't know. I think it might be these two are going to have to start infiltrating the criminal underworld of the city, and we'll see where that takes them. Because I feel like with the amount of emphasis on religion so far and the mention of sliverism, I'm just like, there's going to be a religious bent to these criminals, I'm sure.
Okay.
I feel like it's going to be something to do with it. I don't know. The fact that they're only picking like Alamance are women is also confusing me. I was like, why is that? I wonder.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see.
That is a mystery now. Okay, one more thing I want you guys to predict. I will tell you that after however much fighting happens in this next section is over, we're going to get a body count. I want you guys to predict what kind of body count. We'll see who makes it closest. So remember, we have, I think he said 37 bandits. We have 300 or 400 innocent bystanders, Wax and Wayne.
So wait a minute. You want us to count how many they will kill, like the bandits, and then also how many of the regular people will die?
No, I just mean how many people are going to die. I was just going back over the numbers of people that are there so that you had a
but
base to operate from.
In our count, you want to know how many like innocents are going to be killed.
No, I just meant like body count in general, like how many people are going to die. You can split it up if you want and be like, I think this many innocents will die and this many bandits.
That's the clarification I'm asking for, and then you keep saying no. So
that is not
you
what I was asking.
You want to know the total people of dead people.
Yeah.
I feel like we're going to have, because I am going to split it because like that's just how I think. I think it's going to be a dozen of the bandits are going to be dead. Let's say roughly a dozen, and let's call it maybe 40 or 50 of the partygoers will be killed in the rush.
Okay.
I think
bloodbath. Let's go.
I think it's going to be 35 bandits, and it's going to be 5 innocent people.
So Joe has almost no bandits managed to survive this, but they managed to keep the innocents relatively safe. And Dak thinks a decent number of bandits will die, but also a decent number of innocent people. Okay,
Yeah.
fair enough.
So you reckon like all but 2 of the bandits are going to survive? Like, so I'm guessing you mean the masked leader and Big Hungry Bill.
Yeah, that may be a little too far. I'm going to scale that back to 30 bandits, because they still got to operate their stuff to get away. So
Also,
I'm
I
gonna
don't
say
know
30 bandits are going to die.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. I was going to say I'm not sure if the 37 actually includes the leader and the other guy, but I'm pretty sure it must from the way.
37 in a row?
Okay, so for next time.
Classic.
Try not to suck any dick on your way through the parking lot.
Oh, gosh. For next time.
Hey, you, get back here.
Hey, get back here.
We are reading chapter 6 and chapter 7. 2 more chapters for next time. And that will be, after that, we're going to do 3 chapters for a couple weeks. So yeah, 2 more chapters for next time. If anyone would like to send us an email, the address is thesanderlanche@gmail.com. Find us on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and places like that. Music by Miracle of Sound. We're going to read, so we're now at 30. Yeah, it's 30% at the end of that chapter. And then it'll be 40% at the end of the next one. So yeah, another 10% for next time. Just we're getting through this book very rapidly.
Well, it's just because it's like half the length of the rest.
Yep.
Yeah.
That'd be why.
How many pages is this?
Yeah, I'm using the Kindle, which just goes by location, so I don't know how many pages.
It's like 300 pages, I think.
Oh, yeah, it's
Roughly.
pretty short.
Like, yeah, skipping through, and it's like, all right, look at the page numbers, but none of the text above it. So I got a rough approximation there. I was flipping and just watching the numbers go up.
Going by locations, Well of Ascension had 12,800 locations, and this book has 5,000 locations. So yeah, that's like less than half of Well of Ascension.
Yeah, well, I've got Hero of Ages is like 700 pages, so.
Yep. So yep, fun. 2 chapters for next time, everyone. Thank you for listening. Wasing to the time of next. Coolo?
When we lose everything that defines us, can we hold to the promise that binds us and carry on into tomorrow's sorrow? When we're facing the ghosts of our destinies, will we turn or remain in the memories and choose to lead or choose to follow sorrow?
Ooh.
Navy SEALs.